Today we're connected with psychologist Mbak Efnie Indriane to talk more regarding this matter. Good morning, Mbak Efnie. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so this is a very sensitive issue we're going to talk about today because it must be traumatic when one experiences or even witnesses some sort of public sexual harassment. Obviously, there's usually a lot of people around, and perhaps not everyone is aggressive. Some people are perhaps worried whether they should do something or not. So what should one do when they encounter a situation like this, whether they're the person that it's happening to, or if you observe someone else that it's happening to as well?
Yeah. For several people, sexual harassment is a kind of very traumatic because it's unpleasant memory in our brain. Yeah. For the first time, if we face a traumatic experience like this, never accuse or blame ourselves.
Okay.
Why? Because this is not our fault. And sometimes for the several people, they just blame themselves with many kind of reasons. Maybe this is my fault, I don't behave well, I don't cover my body very well, or this is the kind of bad reason. Never do that.
Right.
Because this is not related to the sexual harassment victim. But this is about the sexual harassment perpetrators. And after the traumatic experience, if we want to cry, just cry. Because this is, can help us to release or overcome the negative emotions. And after that, we can ask someone and tell about this to get more helping from the others to us.
I mean, it's certainly very difficult, especially because it can happen anywhere at any time, and that's one of the most unexpected things about this. But you mentioned before that some people are just brave enough to face it. Some people, some people are so shocked they're paralyzed, and they can't do anything about it. And the worst thing is when some people don't yet understand what's actually happening when it comes
at
to
the time,
children.
right? You're confused.
Right? Exactly. And some might not be brave enough to fight or file a report, but how can we convince ourselves and help others who are experiencing exactly that to stand up against, the violence that has happened?
Yeah, usually the sexual harassment victim, they have no powers to face the situations and conditions, and they always face the unpleasant experience such as intimidating from the sexual harassment perpetrator. So, as the people around them, we need to give the social support, to give more helping for the victims, and we must give our more time to listen to them. So when they try to relieve or try to tell the bad experience about it. And after that, we can help the victims to go through the process to document everything related to the experience. Maybe something related to the time of the experience, the death, the photo, the video, or maybe the social cost. And this can help the victims to recover, to get more helping from the others. Any kind of document is very, very important.
I think it's amazing with this day and age that we live in. We have everyone has a cell phone with a camera on it. I think recording is like one of the best things you can do because you have evidence as well, right? If you do need to report it, at least you can show that you have something to back up your story as well. And I think there's a point to be made as well that if you're not sure what to do at the time, just react. If you feel uncomfortable, if you want to yell out or you want to say something, be a little bit loud because those around you could possibly help you.
Exactly.
For example, if I see something happening, I can't assume that that's some sort of harassment, but if the person it's happening to kind of gets loud or says something or is shocked, then as a stranger, I'm likely to come over and say, is everything okay? Because that's one thing you should do as strangers as well. If you see kind of a weird incident, just go up to, even though they're strangers, and just ask if everything's okay. And if it is, they should.
It's a funny incident. You mentioned that everybody has the capability of recording now, right?
Yeah.
Because it recently happened to my friend, not in Indonesia though. She was traveling outside here in Indonesia, and it was a public space. It was a public transportation. She was being sexually harassed in a bus, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
But she did stand up for herself, and there was a stranger who actually recorded it.
Right.
So there was a stranger who actually recorded it, and once she wanted to go to to deal with the authorities that are there or people in charge, the stranger actually came up to her. Look, I recorded it, and I can send it to you. So can you imagine just that would give the victims such peace of mind if their people are actually also vigilant.
Right. Okay, speaking of recording, it's a two-edged sword, though, by the
Yes,
way.
I know.
Because I had an experience on the busway once, and I was only walking by, and I didn't realize what was happening at the time until I walked, and I realized it later on. But there was a stranger filming another stranger from behind, and I didn't realize, I thought he was on his phone, basically, because the phone was in front of his
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
And
yeah.
as I walked by, I noticed it was on record. And, you know, traffic is,
Yeah,
foot
yeah,
traffic
yeah.
is moving fast. And it kept sticking in my mind for some reason. And then as I went on, I realized, and then they got on the bus, I realized that he was probably just like recording her without her knowing. Is that a form of harassment as well, Efnie?
Yes, of course. And sometimes when we talk more about the recording process, yeah, most of the sexual harassment victims have no power to record the situation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because they face the situation intimidated by the sexual harassment perpetrators.
Yeah.
So if we face the situation, control ourselves first, and we have to control our breathing. By control our breathing, we can control our specific behaviors to help more ourselves when we see there's no the others bystanders around us to be more helping for
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah, breathing certainly helps instead of you just clenching up and being tense all the time, right? Now,
Yeah.
Efnie, before continuing with our talk show, we'd like to stress the huge impact of sexual harassment to our psyche. This problem is very concerning considering that many victims find it hard to speak up. So now we have some movie recommendations. They may help us understand a little bit better about sexual harassment and ways to create safer environments for everyone.
The first one is a 2011 movie titled Silence. The South Korean movie is based on an event that took place at Gwangju Inhwa School for the Deaf, where young students became the victims of repeated sexual assaults by the faculty members over a period of 5 years in the early 2000s.
The second one is Cairo 678, which was released in 2010. This movie is an Egyptian political thriller which focuses on the daily public sexual harassment of 3 women with different social backgrounds in Egypt. This film won the top prize in several international film festivals, such as Asia Pacific Screen Awards and the Chicago International Film Festival. I'm sure there are many more out there as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely. And by Efnie, just to continue our talk here, when we're speaking about the traumas of the victims, what is the best way for healing treatments?
Yeah, sexual harassment experience cannot recover by itself. We need to give 2 kinds of therapy to the sexual harassment victim. For the first, as a psychologist, in my experience, when I face my patient have a sexual harassment traumatic, I will give the therapy to recover the 3 aspects of the patients. For the first is the cognitive aspect. We should to help the victim to remapping the situation and the condition. We can help them to build a new mindset for themselves, because sometimes they have a lack of self-concept and the negative self-esteem after the situations. And sometimes we need to give the brain therapy also to recover the subconscious mind condition. And the second, in the affective aspect, we need to help them to release any kind of negative emotion from the memory. Because if the negative emotion don't release from the victims, it will influence the mental condition in the future. And the third, we need to help the victims to set the behavior, build the specific action plan how to face the life in the future. And it will take a long time, in my experience, to recover the mental condition from the patients. It needs more than 6 months, and frequently we give a psychotherapy 2 times in a week. And sometimes for the several patients, they need the pharmacotherapy also from the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist can give more prescriptions, medical prescriptions for the patients also.
All right. But Efnie, you mentioned earlier in our discussion that sometimes the victim is afraid to report or kind of blames themselves for this happening. In fact, it's not only the victim that blames themselves, and I've seen this on social media comments about posts as well, where the society sometimes blames the victim, saying that it's the victim's fault, that they're provoking the abuser. So it's one thing to help the victim kind of realize it's not their fault, but how can we change the public mindset and raise public awareness about, look, every victim is a victim, and you don't, there's always, an assault is an assault, and it's never the victim's fault. How can we raise more public consciousness in regards to this?
Yes, we need to give more education to the public, something related to the sexual harassment. Why? Because this is not about the victim, but this is related to the perpetrator of sexual harassment. Mostly, the sexual harassment perpetrator, they have a sexual disorder. This is a kind of mental illness. So we give more information to the public. What is the specific features of the sexual disorders? What we need to do when we face the situation or the people like this, and the sexual harassment perpetrators, they not just need to have a legal consequence from the behavior, but they need the psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy also. The psychotherapy from the psychologist and the pharmacotherapy from the psychiatrist to recover, to overcome the behaviors and the illness.
It's very interesting. Legal consequences, right? I think it's so important, and luckily Indonesia has made the first step. But I think as long as there's no registry, there is no purely any legal consequence. If you have a registry, they might not be behind bars, but they'll forever be registered as a sex offender, basically, right? That's it. They're in. We hope it will come to that. But what can we do other than the laws that are slowly being developed to make sure it's creating a public space? But what can we do also to create public spaces to minimize the risk of sexual harassment? Is that even possible? Because Indonesia has recently underlined its own awareness on sexual assault cases by passing the Sexual Violence Bill in April 2022, right?
Yeah. To build and support safe environment, we should to develop a comprehensive sexual harassment policy, and we make sure that all of the people know the policy and understand about it, so they will understand more if they face the situation related to the sexual harassment. What can they do? And this is a kind of hope of from me as a common people. Maybe we need a more sensitivity on the public area that recording every behavior, every second from the behavior in the public area. So if someone has a bad experience or they treated by someone related to the sexual harassment, there is a recording about it. It can make us become more safe than before.
Yeah, I agree. Put up CCTVs everywhere, because then people will be paranoid to do anything wrong because they know they're being recorded. Well, Efnie, thank you so much for your time. We know this is a sensitive issue to discuss, but it's something that's very important, and we do need to shed more light on it. And have yourself a great Wednesday. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Efnie.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Always great talking to you.